Hello, Vicky Milner.
Hi, Kelsi. How are you?
I am so excited to have you on our podcast because, my God, you're like the motherland of Canadian fashion.
Oh, I'm
Well,
trying.
well,
Trying my best.
you're doing it successfully, and you're doing it in a way that is allowing for so many new brands to really come out of the woodworks here and get their chance to shine, and us being one of them. And it's been truly because of your program and the way that you run CAFA. And I would love for you to explain what CAFA is to these listeners.
Yeah, it would be my pleasure. So CAFA is the national platform for Canada to celebrate and support the Canadian fashion industry. And that includes both emerging and established talent in fashion design, photographers, stylists, models, makeup artists, hair artists, all the different creators that surround the fashion industry. We're the organization to shout about all the amazing talent we have in this country from the rooftops.
So, for you, when you started this endeavor, what did you find was the hardest part? Because you said that you have come from, you were a brand rep, and so you knew that one side of this industry. How much did you know already about this, the other side of what you were really going to be going into, focusing and, like you said, from the ground up, getting people to be aware of these things and these brands in Canada, and that we have this established fashion industry? What was the hardest part of moving into that type of job and that type of career move?
I think the hardest part is just getting people to get to know you and what your vision is. A lot of times, you know what you are capable of, what's in your head, you can see it, a million miles ahead.
Yeah.
But you got to convince people, right? Over and over again, right? And it's not like you're selling something tangible.
No.
You're selling them on a concept that you're creating, but it's so important, and they need to get to know that you're able to pull it off. You're a person of your word. And you build kind of relationships that way, over time and slowly, by proving to people that it's not all fluff, that you actually are going to follow through with what you're promising. So that takes time, and sometimes people kind of jump in right away, and they're like, you know what, I like what you're about, I see it, I want to be part of this. And other times people need time to see what you can do, and then they jump on, right? And it just depends on who you're talking to and what you need, and how your kind of vision is coming together. But that's the hardest part. And I think that's true for any industry. It's people just, they need to have faith in you, and you have to show them who you are as a person.
Half the battle most of the time is getting people to listen to you. I mean,
Exactly.
that's what I've personally found. I feel like you can be successful at something if you know that mindset of you, as long as you try and you keep pushing forward and you don't quit and all of that. But at the same time, along with that, you need to have a certain type of personality, I feel like, and
Yeah.
that's that kind of take no for an answer type of person. And from what I've heard in the industry about you, you're kind of what they call a powerhouse, and or somebody who makes sure that shit gets done is what I was told. So yeah, you're not one to be stepped on. And I think that's why people respect you the way they respect you, is you're a hard worker, but you also know how to get the job done efficiently and effectively, and you get the results that are needed. And I think that's why people see you in high regard. I gotta ask though a few like very random questions. Number one, how many children do you have?
3 daughters.
Okay, so you have 3 girls in your house, and 4 including you.
Yep.
And you decided that all girls were going to be the route we're going to go. So I need to know how you handle that mental health of yours, having 3 lovely little girls.
Well, and 2 of them are twins. It's a set of twins. So, yep. So twins and another one after. Yep. They're 8 years apart. The twins are 18 now, and the little one's 10, just turned 10. And so they keep me young and on my toes. How about that?
All right. But how is it that you deal? I was talking with Donna about this as well, Donna Bishop, because she has her children, and we were having a conversation about the way that we are parenting kids and the way that the things that our kids are going to have to deal with that we would not normally have ever had to deal with at our age because it just didn't exist, and that's the social media. And I find it interesting when I hear others who work in the fashion industry. One of the questions I love to ask them is how do you work with your children when it comes to Instagram and that fashion and that platform, because you can use it for so many great things in our industry, and as well as you and I both know that fashion and Instagram are two hand-in-hand things, but that also comes with a little bit of trepidation on my part of giving children Instagram.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about that. Especially, like when I grew up, like many, none of that was there. And you kind of lived in your little bubble and no one knew, what you did or where you went or, what outfit you wore. You could have worn the same thing every day and nobody knew or cared. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a ton of pressure. There's a ton, it's explaining to them what you see isn't real, and we all have all seen that and read articles about that. But it does come down to that. It's always nice to post beautiful vacation shots and, scenic kind of environments with like cute outfits and, that's the shot that makes it to the feed. How many shots were taken right before, before that person decided that's the great shot. But a lot of it is just kind of speaking to them about what's real and what's not, and that your value is not determined by how many likes somebody has or, how many viewers or, with TikTok too is, one of those platforms now that's massive. You can just get so sucked in. I mean, I'm guilty. Like I watch it, like when my kids are watching it, we get into the rabbit hole of watching like dogs or animal things.
Yeah.
Like they make me smile, they're cute, whatever. But then, there's also a lot of other stuff out there that's not that great. So it's really kind of talking to them about that, but also balancing it out with other things that are real. So they see how hard I work, they read, they have other activities they do. It's also, I think, important to engage your kids in everyday life things, and it doesn't have to just be like, 5 activities during the week. Like that's also maybe not great, and every kid is also different, right? Like you as a parent know what works best for your kid, the approach you need to take, the hobbies they may or may not take to. So it is, parenting is obviously very individual. For me personally, what's worked is talking to my kids a lot, showing up is huge for whenever they need me. As busy as I am, we all are, there are moments where, okay, your kid needs you now. Like you drop everything and you need to talk to them, because parents know also when to read the signs, when your kid's having an off day or something else is going on. And sometimes they just say nothing and they brush you off, but you can kind of tell something's going on. So it's important to kind of be aware, like we're all guilty. Like we're busy, work stress now with COVID, that's like a whole other layer of stuff. But, just try to, I think it's important to pay attention to signs and kind of just like notice what's going on, check in, as much as you can. And because they have to know that not only that you care, obviously they know you care, you're a parent, but it's different between them knowing that you love them because you're their parent versus like you care because you're actually checking in because you're noticing something's off. You know what I mean? There's a difference. And, it's, and I mean, again, like no one's perfect and every day there's new challenges, but I think being there for my girls, checking in and kind of them knowing that they're a priority is a huge deal for me.
Well, I think them knowing that they are a priority for you is not only a big deal, it's probably a lot of the trust that they have that has been developed. It's the way that they see the world. It's knowing that somebody has their back and that they can talk to and have a conversation with and be very open and honest and have an open conversation that won't end up being a judgmental fight. I think that's a huge importance. And the reason I ask so many people of your level about those questions is because I always want to know how you are when you're handling your mental health because of that. Because we are going through extraordinary times, there are, you know, a lot of other stressors put on people that may not have ever been put on them before. And some people may already have too much. And this could be, you know, already, you know, the tipping point. What are you doing to keep you sane, though?
The TikTok dog videos. No.
Just on repeat. I watch those things on repeat.
You know what? I think, gosh, you know, we all need an outlet. Like, I joke about that, but, you know, and like some people like to golf. Some people, you know, they use sports to like, or people run or exercise and do, you know, and all of that works in various ways for different people. But everyone needs some type of like distraction. You know, I find like for me, it's watching like silly television or, you know, being able to like check out. I mean, again, everyone's degree of how they are coping with things is different. It depends on your family life, your friends, like going for a walk with a girlfriend is great. You know, like it's so individual because I talk to different people. I'm very fortunate. I'm married and I have 3 children to kind of take my focus off things sometimes. I also have 2, my parents are alive still and they live close by. So that support system, I'm very fortunate because while all of this is going on, I do have people who love me that I can lean on to either, you know, share my frustrations with, to talk about them, to forget them, you know, like I have a support system. And for those people who don't, you're right, like, you know, they may be, you know, people who live alone as an example. And going through when we were on lockdown, you know, like it was so important for me to reach out to whoever I could that I knew lived alone, you know, because they're just there themselves, you know, they may talk on the phone here or there, but it's different than when you actually live in a house with someone and you can like talk or hang, you know, watch a movie and get distracted or deal with it with someone. And I think mental health in general is so key on different levels, on an everyday level and on a bigger scale with so many people. And I think it goes back to what I was saying, like paying attention to like whether it's signs or kids, like I just assume everyone's having certain issues right now. Like that's just my general assumption. How they deal with it. Because it could be a work stress, it could be, you know, a family stress, it could be a kid stress. Like you said, because of like everyone was already feeling certain things before COVID. Now COVID comes and puts people even more over the top with worries and anxiety. And I think, again, stress with losing jobs, money, like I know many people who have lost jobs or are waiting to start their jobs because the current climate doesn't, you know, allow them to work how they would normally work. And it's super stressful. And I think as much as we can, we have to be an outlet for other people.
As much as you can. As much as you can, but I hear you say that, but I think that's a key point to remember, as much as you can.
As much you can, of course. It's not everyone is capable of doing different things, 100%. And some people are still doing it themselves and they don't have more to give, and because they have to be healthy themselves, right? So, but for those who are managing it in a certain way and stuff, it's really important to reach out to people who you know may need that just extra support.
Well, I know you're back east in Ontario, and I know that you guys have been locked down. I don't know. Are you guys out of lockdown now? Or are you?
We're out of like lockdown. Like, yeah, we can go out and stuff. They shut the restaurants for a bit, and then they open them up like for indoor dining, and then they shut them again. I think it's a bit of a yo-yo like many other provinces where numbers go up and then they restrict certain things, and then, you know, people see how it goes once the numbers change again. but we can go out like outside.
And do all of that and whatnot. I'm curious how you feel about that.
About being inside.
Well, not about being inside necessarily, because your province in particular has been one of the hardest, I would say the hardest hit in Canada, but it's also been one of the most restricted. And I can imagine having 3 children in a province like that, where right before school is starting and that time of year, that must have been quite stressful. So I wonder, like, if you of all people, how does it feel? Do you agree with it?
I think right now it's about, I mean, I don't envy any politician in the space that has to like work through this moment in time, because they have to balance health with economic health of the country, right? And so it's like do I want to get back to normal working, having my awards event in May and whatever? Yes, of course, but that's not in the best interest of everyone, from a health perspective. But then what else could I be doing to still move the needle forward in what, from a work perspective on what we want to do, and still communicate with people and still see people? Like, I think we're all going through that balancing act individually, is how do we keep healthy, but still not completely being isolated and not doing anything, and just, because that's not healthy for anyone either, right? So it's a bit of a balancing act for everybody, I think.
I wonder, me personally, what the number has to be for the suicide rate and unemployment rate and the homelessness rate and the abuse on children and adults rates have to be before we start opening up for people that are getting pneumonia. I've had this disease, and I know how bad it can be, but I also know that if the world's most unhealthy man can jump back 4 days later and get back on a campaign trail, they lost me. As soon as that happened, I was like, shit, I can't take it seriously anymore, guys. I'm sorry. You lost my patience. You lost my attention. You lost my ability. Unless you have a predisposed condition, no. If Trump can beat it in 4 days, that is not allowed. That shouldn't be happening. So I out here in BC, they recently locked us down without warning as of Saturday, and today, if I'm not mistaken, is Tuesday. It was quite troubling, and it was, for us out here, it was more of an effect, more up to the effect of they were cherry picking people, and I found that to be most troubling, was the way that they were doing it from a government standpoint. I guess for me, I'm always curious to know how we can justify allowing all of these amazing independent retailers go belly up like the way we are. I guess for me, from a fashion perspective and from the industry's perspective, that must be troubling to see that for you.
Oh yeah. I mean, I speak to different, from makeup artists to designers to stylists, because it's all affected, right? There's a trickle down effect. Like, there's not the same amount of shoots, then all of those creative people aren't getting an income the way they used to. And yeah, and it's in terms of purchasing power, right? Like, if someone's lost their job, they're not going to buy those, extra pair of earrings that year, or, people are, their priorities for sure kind of change right away, and they have to put food on the table for their families. That's first. So no, I agree. It's terrible what's happened. And, to your earlier point, like, what is that magical number? Like the stat, I mean, I don't know what it is. I think we had passed it a while ago, but yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky. We're in November, so I'm hoping, through the holidays, we get a clean slate in January, but it's very hard to tell what the future holds when it comes to all that stuff.
Of course, it's frustrating. And I know, like you said, you had the gala planned for May, and as of now, it's still a go last time I heard. But I mean, that could all change, and that in its own, planning that alone, and just the work that goes into that.
Yeah.
Just no.
It's hard to plan something. It's like, it's like standing on a shaky ground. You can't get your footing because it changes all the time. But I have seen innovation that's come out of this, and people have pivoted and have accelerated plans. that maybe they sat on for a while, and this has forced their hand to like get up and do it. So, and in terms of the events business, we've seen like, you know, the hybrid virtual models. Is it the same? Would I rather do things in person? Yes. There's nothing like, you know, standing in a room, you know, seeing people and talking and, you know, being social. And it's, you know, even with work, you know, doing all these things on Zoom, it does get tiring and draining. You know, I think in the beginning, people were like, who had never used video conferencing. It was like a cool new opportunity. And you're like, oh, I see all the squares and I see all the people and I can, you know, see everyone at once. But now fast forward like what, 8 months later, it's not the same, you know, oh, I'm going to do a Zoom call. No.
No, now it's like, I just hope that when I log on to a Zoom call that I just don't see somebody's exposed genitals. Because I feel like so many people had no idea how to use any of these platforms. They all came out, everybody had to all rush to them. And next thing you know, dads are walking around naked and you're seeing glimpses of nip slips and what is happening in the world? We were not ready for this amount of Zoom in our lives, I'm telling you.
One thing I have seen though, it definitely has humanized people a little bit in the sense that, you know, I think in the perspective that, you know, when you're in a public setting, in a corporate world, you know, you have your, you know, VPs and bosses and, you know, different titles, right? And you don't really know people's like personal lives. You're there in the office, you work, and, you know, unless you're friends with them, you leave and that's it. It's a working relationship. Now with people, you know, working from home, you get to know a bit more about their family and maybe their kids have popped in, you know, and I think people's acceptance levels or tolerance of that home work balance or imbalance, you know, for many, has really like increased because we're all in a certain boat, right? And a lot of people have little kids or kids that they're homeschooling, and it's not this like shock, like, you know, if a pet or a child bursts into the screen right now, it would be like, oh, look, you know, look at their kid. Or
there's a tiny face in the screen.
Yeah, it's like, it's more endearing than it's like an embarrassment. Like, oh my God, like, I'm so sorry, my kids are here. Like, people have come to, you know, this understanding that this happens. And they're much more like tolerant, and it's funny too, because people have had fun with their like screens and their backgrounds.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Yeah, like, oh, I like your picture or your frame or, you know, whatever, your vase. And it makes it more human, if that makes sense.
It does. It does make it more human in that sense, because I think up until that point, Zoom had always been used for such a traditional business matter and way of communication. And then we've taken it and, like you said, humanized it and spun it on its head. The only thing I find about Zoom to be... I could find something wrong with everything at this point, but that's another thing. But Zoom to me is interesting because I just love the fact that you can just mute people, and there's something so satisfying about being able to just, when someone's mouth is just running, just boop, that like...
Muted many people, Kelsi, in meetings.
Here's what happens. You know what you do if you've been muted. You know what you've done. You know what you've put me do. You made me do that to you is what's happened.
Right. And you know right away, you can see it. Someone's muted. You can see it pop up.
It is one of the single most satisfying things I've ever done in my life, because in real life, I have that where I just want to put my hand over people's mouths. Just, you know, when you just slowly see your hand reach out. No. Yeah, but see that you do it politely. I just want to, if you could just shut your face. Just and slowly push you out of the way. Like that's how that Zoom button feels to me. It is the most satisfying thing. And I don't know, that's horrible. It's a horrible thing to say, but it is, and I don't care who judges me.
We got to find silver linings, right?
Oh my God, do we ever, especially with this COVID thing? Oh my God, in our industry, I've noticed it so wholeheartedly with the fashion industry and being a brand and watching what happened, say from buying times in March till now. And literally 70 of our accounts have canceled and are not reopening, and a good amount of those will never open again. And those are all very independent, and those are people's, you know, mortgages and children's clothing payment. You know, this is where these people got everything from. I find that really troubling that we're allowing it to go this far, and we're allowing our society and our citizens of Canada to really just not, they're not allowing us to do anything about it until somebody stands up and really starts making some noise about it. It's going to be an issue. And I'll be honest with you, when they put the restrictions down on us this week, they said, no office, no, you can't be at the office, you can't do this, but you can go to a restaurant. I'm like, well, restaurants are running, so am I then, baby, because that's not gonna fly.
Yeah.
It's too wishy-washy, and I think that's why the public is losing that trust and patience in it. And so I'm hopeful that this, I don't want to say ends soon, I'm hopeful that we finally just get our head out of our asses and realize that we need to just all wear masks and move on and live our lives, because this isn't going to get any better to the point that they need it to open. But it's no longer fair, in my opinion, to allow our independent stores and retailers to go bankrupt and work something they've worked their entire lives for.
I know. And the same thing I find with restaurants.
Oh,
so many restaurants. I feel for the food industry also, takeout isn't enough. There's so many great family owned restaurants that I know in Ontario and in downtown Toronto or in, all the suburbs, they're gone too, because they couldn't survive. Right. And, they've been open and closed and a lot of them actually, in the first time invested in making things safe, and wanting to, and spent a whole bunch of money thinking, okay, I'll create the safest environment I can.
Yes.
Then just build the business back up. And unfortunately, with this kind of back and forth, they couldn't survive it.
What I find so unfair about that is just the sheer lack of give a fuck by those that are in charge, the ones that are actually going to have their paycheck, and the ones that don't have to worry about their heat and hydro and rent and where their next meal is coming from. And I'm hopeful to see this change soon, because I don't foresee a lot of people being willing to take it much longer, let alone what's going on in the States with that, and coupled with that. And you and I both know very well that whatever happens in the States has a trickle effect into Canada's fashion industry. And I see that too. So for brands, I don't know if you've spoken with brands that sell to the States, but are you hearing a similar type of story?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're all affected, and if you have consumers in the States, obviously it's a bigger market, right? So the sales that you would normally make in the States, or the stores that bought you, were much higher. And so a lot of brands, of course, have seen a big downturn. It's like I said, if a person's lost their job, they're not going to buy either, right? So it affects businesses, but all the individual household, discretionary income that somebody once had is gone now. So a lot of people are just prioritizing where they're spending.
When you were starting into this industry, what did you initially want to do? I mean, before anything.
I wanted people to see the fashion industry as it should be seen. I wanted people to understand that, because there's a lot of stereotypes, right? What's Canadian fashion? I mean, there's just a lot of ignorance in general about Canada, and who's here, and it's I always find it funny. When you have those stand-up like the night show hosts, when they go out in the street and they ask people questions that are logical questions, and then nobody, that goes on still all the time with television and social media. You think there'd be more education around certain things.
Good thing.
Yeah, but anyway, but I think for me it was just breaking down the stereotypes of Canadian fashion, who's in this country, who are the brands. A lot of times, and not even just asking people outside of Canada, what do you think of Canadian, or who are the Canadian brands? It's even Canadians, right? Educating people on who's in this country and the amazing talent that they bring. A lot of global success stories. I look at bigger names, obviously, like Lululemon or Aldo, everyone knows Roots, Canada Goose. Canada Goose, I mean, it's pretty hard to not know where Canada
it's literally Canada, the gooses from the Canadas.
But all those other brands, I mean, I think, people just don't know they're Canadian companies and they started here and they employ all these great people. And then kind of breaking down the stereotypes. Well, we have amazing outerwear, but we also have great evening wear designers and great jewelry designers. And a lot of them are worn by celebrities and are super successful. And a lot of them do still live in Canada. And I think we have to be our biggest, I always say this, like, we have to be our own biggest cheerleaders. It's like when you have your own children, you've got to create a foundation for them to succeed. You've got to nurture them. You've got to build their self-esteem up so that they can go on and tackle the world. And you have to be, as their, parent, to be that person for them time and time again. And it never stops because that's the job of a parent. But I look at kind of that in a way, like with our industry, like there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of, information, and we live in a scrolling society where it's just now like scroll. You have 2 seconds, or if not less. I don't know. I'm sure there's a stat out there. I don't know it. But
it's all right. Short. I'll find it for you.
Whatever it is, it's super short to make that impression, to get a person to stop and read even a caption, let alone like a whole piece of copy. So it's so important for me and with CAFA and everything that we do to be that constant cheerleader, to let everybody know who we have, create awareness and give them access too. That's the other thing, awareness and access. Make it easy for people to find these brands and buy them, and then through that, hopefully there's that trickle down effect. And even with the award show, when you have a big black tie, fancy, beautiful red carpet, and everybody's wearing Canadian brands from head to toe and posting about it on social, and then people read stuff in the media, they get to know who some of these brands are, and they start to Google them and buy from them and talk about them. So we all play a part, and I think I always say too, for consumers, like if you find a brand you love, go to the buyer of that store and say, oh my God, you got to check out this Canadian brand out. Or if you're posting something on social, tag the brand. Brands love seeing that, you love them and you're paying attention to what they're doing. It's so important. Like we all have that cheerleader part to play. And we if we do it collectively, I think there'll be great results.
I think it'll be much more effective, like you said, doing it on a collective basis rather than asking individual brands, hey, you do this and you do this, and hopefully all of a sudden Canada's brands will become, internationally well known and and don't get me wrong, there are Canadian brands that have become very, very large and very well known, and that's exactly what you want. That's the goal. That's the whole purpose of it. I think the way that you not only run the program though, and the willingness to have that open discussion, and also the thing I noticed in the fashion industry when I first came into it was the lack of communication and willingness to help one another when it came down to, i.e. sourcing or things like that, because people see each other as competitors. But once I found I started working along the lines of some of these other people that we both associate with, those are when the doors have started to, people have been starting to willing to have a conversation with you, because they're starting to take you seriously and starting to take what you're doing seriously, so much so that then they end up turning around and asking you, hey, do you know where I can get X, Y, and Z? And that's a good, that's a great moment when that happens for that person. I know for me, when that happened, I remember it was a really good moment. It felt incredibly validating from not only being a brand owner, but also just being a Canadian brand owner, like you said. And so the only thing I would hope that would change is that there would be a willingness a little earlier on, as brands grow, to hopefully foster and create that environment where they feel like the industry isn't closing the door on them. It's rather than opening the door open for them. I think it's only going to be beneficial down the road. The longer that, CAFA is running, the more and more CAFA is out there, the more and more people are going to want to get into this industry, because how can you not when you have an opportunity like emerging designers and you have these platforms for people to learn and educate and connect with those others that are trying to do the same thing as them. So I think CAFA is such an instrumental part of the Canadian fashion industry. and not only acknowledging and helping brands, but also, like you said, opening them up to the world. And I think that's on its own, if that's all that you ever did, you opened the world's eyes to so many people that may never ever have gotten that platform, and that's such a beautiful thing on its own.
Thank you.
Oh no, it's
More
true.
work, more work to be done. I have big plans. Just gotta get back to the business and get out of COVID.
Well, you know what? The big plans will happen. And the reason I know those will happen for you is because so far from every single person I've ever spoken with about you, because I do talk about you in only a positive manner.
Oh, thank you.
But they all end up having the same really positive things. But the number one thing that they all said that they had in common was, you will get it done. You will get it done no matter what it is that you're doing. And I think that's one of the reasons I also wanted to speak with you, was because of your drive and your willingness and your just integrity and determination to make Canadian brands known around the world and known for a good, positive reason. I need to ask, what hardened you to this? What made you this fierce advocate like that? That doesn't happen overnight. You don't just become like that. I'm sorry, you don't.
I think it's not, and however this is going to come off, and I'm just like this in no matter, I think, any industry I would be in, is I really care. I care about people. Like I do. I don't know if that
really
sounds
just
cheeky,
love you.
It's not, I do. I care about people's backstory.
Mm-hmm.
I care about their own goals. I care about their journey of how they want to get there. And then I want to keep in touch with them to see if that happened or if they went in a different direction. Mm-hmm. I just, when before the first award show, as I mentioned earlier, I talked to a lot of people, and there's nothing but respect in kind of everyone's individual stories and struggles they've gone through. And I mean, to be in fashion, I've said this before, you've got to love it. It's got to be a passion. Because it's hard work. It's not most of the time so financially rewarding. I mean, obviously when you hit it and hit it well, great, and you have great success, but the road to get there is super hard. And you're going to get shot down in so many different ways. And so when I meet these brands that have that, their own resilience and their own passion and super creative, people that I just admire so much, that's what really drives me. It's the stories. It's the stories of everyone and how they came to be. And I think, and this is something that I take with me every day, everyone is working towards something, and some on a bigger scale, obviously, some on a really small scale. Everyone's trying to do something that's, good in this world, that's valuable, where they can be acknowledged and say, I've achieved X, and it doesn't matter if it's professional or personal or, but we all kind of wake up in the morning and we want to get through the day, but we want to do something with our lives. And it's really inspiring to hear all those different versions of people's stories. Mm-hmm. And if I can play a small part in helping them, and again, it's like you said, if it's just a phone call to create an opportunity, to an award, to I don't know, something small like a social media post, that takes very little effort. Why not do it? Yeah, actually, why not? There's no reason. If a person is talented, hardworking, and is out there every day hustling, and we all are in our different forms, there's no reason why you shouldn't. There really isn't. So I think that's what drives me, because I just want to see people succeed. I really do. I think if you can be part of someone's story of success, that is more rewarding to me than anything at all.
No, I don't doubt it. Of course it is. You're being a part of somebody's success is it's almost like being a life coach for them, just having that small little moment.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's so when one of the favorite parts for me when we have the awards is hearing people's speeches, when they kind of get up and they feel that acknowledgement and they're there and they're excited to be there. But they look around the room and they've either been nominated or have won the award. and they have a moment that they're sharing, that they'll look back on, and it's going to mean something to them, and it's going to inspire others, like you said, to want to work harder or do more. And I think we all, there's cause and effect to everything, and I think we all play a part in that.
I love that. I love that so much. Can I ask you a question about your view on cannabis kind of fusing into the fashion industry?
In terms of what? In terms of like textiles or?
Well, a little bit of all. I'm seeing it everywhere. I'm starting to see it really become a bigger part of our culture because it's, with the legalization, and it's just becoming part of the everyday fabric of the fashion industry. I don't know if you want to elaborate on any of that or explain for our listeners what that's looking like.
Well, I definitely see from like I said, textiles, like materials, also in the beauty industry too, like
big time.
It's, infused in so many different things, and does have great effects. I mean, we also know the healing effects for people who are struggling with certain health issues, and how that has been used for a very long time. So there's definitely all these great things about it, but I've seen also like patterns, obviously.
You mean the leaf plant that everybody's been using?
Yes, it's on a lot of stuff, and I think there's the market for it. Like, people love that, and it's cool, and there's a whole line of accessories that are when like what, a year ago or 2 years ago, I just started noticing like even high-end brands started creating like all the the different accessories that go along with it, like, and even like the designer cannabis, like there were some retailers in Europe and I think New York that had like a department that you could go in, and they created like a very like chic high-end feel for all of your cannabis things. And I found that really interesting. That would have never, ever happened before.
Oh my God, no. You would never have seen something aesthetically pleasing in a pot shop. No. There's no way. You would never go, oh, I put that in my house. There's no way.
No, and they made it look like it could have been anything. Like, it's super chic and well designed and creative, and it was like a whole like department. I think maybe it was also in LA. I have to look it up, but I just remember thinking like, wow, like things have come a far way because people are recognizing, whether it's legal or not, like people are smoking and have been for a very long time, and whatever their reasons for it, they're there. And from a consumer purchasing perspective, if you don't get on that bandwagon, and if you're creating a line that is for that lifestyle or for that, you'll miss out on a whole market segment, so
massive market. And like I was saying, I was chatting with Donna, the market itself is growing exponentially, but to see it grow the way it has in the beauty industry and in the fashion industry just fascinates me beyond belief. Just from, how many years ago was it illegal? Not even that long ago. And it's gone rapid fire right through the fashion industry, and the way, people are using hemp materials and mixing them. And I think that's really great because it's not only showing a new, younger generation that you don't have to make your materials out of X, Y, and Z. You can also try A and B, and if you try these, it might actually, have less water, less waste, less, blah 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 blah, all of the things that are, what we're looking for to better the fashion industry. Because unfortunately, we do have a bit in our culture of that fast fashion, and that I think is one of the more troubling things for me, because I try to stay away from fast fashion. It scares me. I think it's horrible for our environment, but I also think it's horrible for the genuine brands who want to be around on a long-term basis. It kind of forces our hand to try to keep up with these H&Ms and all of those other types. Although, there are larger, consumers and customer brands out there that are doing their best to make it, more eco-friendly as they do that. At the end of the day, it's still just fast fashion, and that causes, a whole world of issues. Do you see that staying fast fashion, or do you see a decline at all on your end?
I don't see it going away, but I see other brands telling their stories and on why they're not the fast fashion brand and why choose them instead. You know, like
Yep.
I think there were less brands doing that before, and now there's, if you're, you know, there's so many great, not only brands but e-com websites that are, you know, focused on sustainable products and really educating people. There's a lot more education, and I think the younger generation
Mm-hmm.
cares more than ever. You know, like again, growing up, it wasn't like a big topic like for me, but now it's out a lot, and the younger generation who are making choices when purchasing, they want to know the brand story. Does the brand have a social cause? Is it like, what do they believe in? What do they stand for? They're a lot more aware and I would say picky of if it's between A and B, and B is sustainable and has a better social component to their culture and their ethos of what they do, they'll choose B. It won't be just, you know, where I think it's not going to go away is because it does come down to economics a lot, right? And fast fashion is cheaper, and depending on your own socioeconomic status and what you can afford, and if you have like 4 children and you have to dress them all and you have to like also, you know, have food and pay rent, sometimes that choice is automatically already made for you because you can only afford to, you know, buy fast fashion.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm sure given the choice, if there was a different pricing,
Mm-hmm.
they would want to make the more sustainable choice. But I just feel like fast fashion isn't going to go away because it's so low priced, right? Like it just is.
Yeah, fair enough. I guess I hope one day that there is a time where, you know, quality comes back into play at an affordable cost, because it will it will end up being, you know, the thing that saves more of the pollution from the fashion industry than anything.
Of course. And quality, and the whole notion of quality over quantity.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, you can buy these 5 t-shirts, but they'll fall apart in a year, and then you'll have to buy another 5 t-shirts, or you buy just 2 and they'll last you for a lot longer, right? And it's kind of educating and showing, and it's you got to keep doing it over and over. And I'm hopeful, like you said, in it, you know, however many years, you'll see like a true economic shift, and not as many collections, and not, I mean, like even with when COVID started and there was so much inventory, and a lot of brands were just, they were stuck, like they couldn't cancel their orders or, you know, whatever their situation, but they were just stuck with all this inventory. And it's one thing if like an independent brand is stuck with that and they can, like, you know, hopefully sell it off, whatever, but going into a department store when it was like shut down for a while, and it has, let's say, fast fashion brands or a fast fashion retailer, it's just so much stuff that's just there, and you think like that's just gonna, it's just such a shame, because like we don't need it. Like I go to the department store in the States, you know, and it's just product. And I mean, of course, it's like every individual business and company has their own line and whatever, but it's just sea of stuff, you know, and you think to yourself, like, when did we get into this like sea of stuff? Like, you know, it happened over time, but there's a lot of stuff out there.
The sea of excess, this constant need to have the newest, the best, the fastest, the shiniest. And I think that's where it probably started, was along those lines, and that just consumerism, and that, you know, those ads before we could get our hands on them. Like the damage was done to the industry before the industry was created, almost. That consumer want, that consumer need, that drive to have the bigger, the better, the faster. And I think no matter what we were going to get to, I think the pace will always dictate the economics. People want it as fast as they can possibly get it, and the thought that they might have to wait, you know, an extra week to have a pair of jeans come in, they would much rather, in most circumstances at least, you know, go purchase it somewhere else at a cheaper price just to get it as quick as they possibly could get it. I see it getting better as you start to see these brands develop causes. I know we from an early on at Brass and Unity had that kind of stance of we were doing it always for the donation. It was never really doing it to be the company. So we came at it from a perspective of wanting to help and not have a e-commerce a business or a B2B or anything like that. We just didn't want, that wasn't the idea. But then we kind of flipped it on its head and did a little bit differently. We started out with the charitable aspect and then grew the brand into that itself. So it's never ever questioned what it does. And I am happy to see that over the past few years, while I've been growing my brand, I've finally started to see other brands realize how important it is to not only just line their pockets, but to also line others. And so that to me is a big step in the right direction in the fashion industry, at least from my perspective, just because I like to think that and this is me, and maybe it's because the way I was raised or the way what the military did to me. I believe that you're always responsible for yourself, but I also believe very much wholeheartedly that we are also responsible for what we put out into the world. And if we put something out that's shitty and horrible, how could we be respected or wanted?
Totally.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been of that, hardworking mindset of, I'm not going to put out a product if it's not going to last long term. I'm not going to put out a product just to rush it. I won't put out a product just because somebody else put out a new product before me. It's always been about the charitable aspect and making sure that we can fund the programs that are doing the hard work. And I love seeing that over COVID, a lot of the other brands have kind of taken on that need to succeed and pivoted and found ways around ways around everything really at this point, because it's been so long. So not even 1 or 2 months of rent, they're talking almost a year of having to hang on. And so many people have really stepped up. And I know during COVID you had a really great platform for the brands in Canada. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was in June. We did it was called the Wear Canada Proud online shopping event. And it was really just to kind of rally. We had over 160 brands be part of it, and it was a website that we developed that had all the different like jewelry, accessories, women's wear, menswear categories. We did a two-day sale where brands could give whether it's special offers or some incentives to shop over those 2 days, and really kind of drew a lot of eyeballs and traffic at a time when a lot of these guys were having no sales at all and no orders were coming in. And again, maybe they were stuck with inventory, and it was like they're in summer and spring and summer, but they still have all this fall winter stuff left too. And it was a bit of a hybrid in terms of what they wanted to sell and what the incentives were. But it did really well because it just kind of showcased again all of these dynamic, amazing brands, some at all different price points, emerging to established, and it made people kind of want to shop and want to support and the whole kind of shopping local. I mean, CAFA is all about that from the beginning, but I think now more than ever, the everyday consumer is making a bigger effort to discover who's local and support them in some way, because and in order, like you said, to save these businesses, to make sure they survive. Some have not, unfortunately, but whoever is still out there, and many of them, we can play our part and support them. And like a lot of them are like family owned or, just independent businesses that, like you said, need to put food on their table, pay their mortgage, whatever. And I feel like sometimes we forget that there are people behind brands,
Yeah.
You see big companies and you think like, oh, that's massive. And sometimes you just assume they're massive, but really it's still there's their face and a person behind that brand. And what was cool that I liked also that we did these talks with people throughout the 2-day period, just so people can see those faces and say hi, like, the person behind this jewelry brand or fashion brand. And they told their stories and what they've been going through and how COVID's affected them, but also just a bit about their brand and what they're about and how they got started, because I think people forget, and you need to create that personal connection between that brand and the person to the consumer. You know, we're all people behind the scenes doing what we're doing.
We're all human beings here, people.
Yeah, we're all human beings. It's not like all these massive, you know, corporate entities. And I think people are really surprised and pleasantly surprised when they're like, oh my God, you're so nice. I didn't know you created this brand, and tell me about it. And, you know, how did you grow it? Like, people are super engaged, and then they become consumers for life because they are now attached personally to that brand story, to that person. And they can picture in their mind when they're buying that, you know, bracelet or whatever, it's going to this person. It's not just going to some office. It's going to an actual human being who's putting their resources and time and effort, and also employing other people, you know, to like for their salaries and everything. It's going to like a good place. So
yeah, exactly.
So I think that connection is so important. So
it is. It's a hard one to make. It's a hard one to cultivate and to continue. It takes a lot of time just to build those relationships with, you know, from a brand to a retailer to a brand to a direct to consumer. It really depends on what that brand chooses and how they choose to spread their message. But I do know, I happen to be the face of my company, and that's been a process, and learning how to handle that and do all these things that come along with that. But once people know who you are, in terms of who's the name behind or the face behind the brand, you're right. People start to care a little bit differently. They start to realize, okay, oh, maybe this person's isn't doing very well. I'm going to go buy something from them. And you never know. They don't know that could have made or break your paychecks. They don't know that could have made or pay your rent. But at this time right now in our world, unfortunately, some days are down to the wire for a lot of brands. And that is okay, but it's the truth.
Yeah, they're going from literally paycheck to paycheck. Like they need to balance at the end of the month, and it could make it, like you said, the difference of, you know, two purchases of things just to get them to that finish line.
No, it's true, and we've seen it, and I know people have seen it. I mean, some of our sponsors, we all work together in this industry that is a consumer-based industry, and we are commodity whether we like it or not. I just like to think that from this, the positive that I've seen come out of this is people realizing it's time to not just make money to make money, but make money and actually do good things with the money. And that, to me, is everything I've always wanted to see more out of people. And maybe, like I said, it's just that's the way I think. But I prefer to give, or I will go buy something double the price if I know half of it's going to go to something really good. I'm more willing to spend that money on a quality product if I know X, Y, and Z, like you said. So I you know, I've always wanted to talk with you since the moment I met you last. I met you via email last year. I told this to Donna. I said, you lit a spark under me in a way that's hard to describe to people, because when people from your level of attention in the fashion Canadian world especially take notice of people who are just trying to break in and just kick that door down in any way that they can. When people like you are so willing to answer the phone and so willing to sit and have conversations and be a part of their lives, even if I don't necessarily have something to give to you, it's people like you that make people like me believe that I can actually make it in this industry. So I've always wanted to have this conversation, and I'm so grateful that I got to have this talk with you. Is there anything else about CAFA or your amazing initiatives that you would like to talk about before we go?
Yeah, well, going back to shopping local, we started this going into the holiday season. There's a new platform, shoplocallabels.com, that we just launched yesterday. And in the spirit of shopping local and holiday gift giving, we've put together an amazing curation of the ultimate Canadian holiday gift guide. Everyone on that website is Canadian companies owned by Canadians, and there's amazing, not only fashion, obviously great fashion, women's wear, men's, jewelry, accessories, but there's great kid stuff. There's things for your pet. There's things for your home. There's decor. There's entertaining. We wanted to cast a wider net. It's kind of, you know, it goes obviously with the theme of supporting all of these amazing businesses, but, you know, we wanted to also profile different market segments, right? Because everyone's kind of looking for gifts for different people. And there are brands from across the country, and we have these really fun, like themed guides going on. It's, you know, for the perfect host, for cool kids and teens, for your favorite guy, for surprise and delight, for you know, we try, you know, stocking stuffer things. We tried to put these like fun curations together.
Yeah.
That'll make it fun and easy for people to discover these great Canadian labels. So shoplocallabels.com. I ask everyone to go on there and find your gifts. And as we said, a lot of these guys are independent brands, and some are bigger independent brands, but they all have a person behind them. And
They have the face.
Yes, and a face and a family and
A mortgage and a car payment
and groceries to buy and all of the things that we all have. And you know, and understanding, of course, the holidays are going to look different for many different people. And it's one of those things, like whoever is able to buy and was going to buy a gift anyway, and they can make the choice to buy anything, or you know, instead of just kind of picking whatever, like make an effort, discover these brands. There's amazing stuff. So it's no short of quality and design and fun. But you know, we have great brands. We need to support each other. And like I said, it's really important just to make an effort. Sometimes it's very easy to just go on Amazon and write black sweater, you know what I mean? or you know, whatever, red dress, I don't know.
red dress.
Yeah.
See
It's
what pops
holidays,
up here.
so, you know, yeah. But you can do the same. Just take you know, an extra like bit of effort, and there's great Canadian companies, and you know, Brass and Unity is one.
That's me.
Amazing jewelry there. Who doesn't love jewelry?
Nobody not loves jewelry.
Everybody does. And said no one. Everybody loves it.
Nobody not loves it. I mean, everybody loves it. Everybody has to love it.
Yes, and it's I mean, you're obviously, like we said, you have a great line, and it comes with also an amazing story. And you know, I always say it's like the gift that gives twice, right? So
well, hey, why not? I mean, we're giving half the money that they just paid for away. So that's what we try to do. Make it so that people are proud to have bought that gift and given it to someone, so that they can go, hey, I got this. Oh, and guess what? Instead of getting those, I don't know if you ever got those, or any of your family members hated you enough to buy you I planted a tree for you in Botswana somewhere, some shit.
Oh yeah, not. I had other trees. I had pets, like
yeah,
from abroad. There's different, you know.
Yeah, you did. I got yeah, or yeah, they got you this goat for a village far away. I'm like, they're gonna kill that goat. Don't buy me a goat that I know is going to get murdered. I don't want to know about that as a child. Why is that like feel like? Well, it's the gift of giving. No, it's not. It's gift of giving your fucking nightmares. I don't need that.
There's. I also like find. There's a lot of great grassroots charities in your own community. And obviously, you know, there's the bigger charities and foundations and all of that, but it's the ones that are like smaller, where your dollar truly does like go a long way, and it could make or break their year too. Especially so many fundraising events got canceled, you know. Like there's always, I mean, in Toronto, there's, in a normal season or time, there's like a million events, you know, and a lot of charity, you know, whether they're big galas or little like fun, you know, cocktail thing, whatever it is. A lot of these guys lost a ton of money this year, and money that they really need to operate, you know, not because, you know, the VP makes or the president makes a ton of money, but they actually needed to operate and do what they do. So I do encourage, like, if anyone was going to do one of those gifts of like, you know, just investing in a charity, and, you know, try to seek out those like grassroots charities.
Like the good charities.
Yeah, because they're on the ground, you know, like there's a ton I've discovered in our city, like a ton of ones that, you know, especially now with domestic violence on the rise.
Yeah.
That's a huge one. And a lot of these kind of organizations, shelters need a ton of support. And the demand isn't going away because unfortunately that's just the state of our world. It's always been there, but now it's increased. I think it was 25%.
Yeah, it's gone up, and same with the suicide rate. It's some ungodly
Yeah,
number.
all of those, the shelters, the mental health, the organizations, all of that, like they really need extra support for anyone who is able to give. I do encourage that during this time.
I always say that before you give, do your research about where you're giving. Always, please do your research. There's incredible sites you can Google, charity rankings, and they'll tell you if they're a proper 501(c), they will show where their money goes and how it's done and where it gets broken down to. And I always think that's important to acknowledge, because some people who donate they might not know where they're donating or didn't know that was even a thing. So that
cost per dollar, basically.
Cost
per dollar, cost to run the whole thing, where like how much of your dollar is going to admin versus the actual like programs that
and especially in our veteran and first responder community, like we keep it, everybody keeps an eye on everybody's charities, because we always hope at the end of the day that all the hard work these people are doing are to the betterment of those charities and what they need those funds for. So, but yes, I'm more than thrilled to have you on this show and talk about this amazing platform you've got. And I will be sure to tell all of my American friends about the platform as well, because there are some super badass Canadian brands that need a place down in the States pretty heavy, and I know they could do quite well. So we'll be sharing this every which way to Sunday, and hopefully we can start get our Canadians down in the States a little bit more and show them what's up.
Yeah, well, I think we should go on a road show when it's safe.
I am so for it. Please just tell me when and where.
I know, we'll plan. We just got to wait a bit more, but
I'm trying so hard to wait patiently, but I am losing it.
I know it's hard. We gotta get through it together. I know, stronger together, all of that. People say that, but I'm going to just say you really do. Like every day you wake up and, I personally, don't want to listen to the news every day, because that's not good for mental health either. Like you're aware of what's going on, but I think that, being glued to the numbers and it could really take over your life. And, I think, like you said, we know what's going on. We have to be safe and wear a mask and wash our hands and all the rules of engagement right now. But I think when you watch the news too much and get too obsessed, I think in the beginning we were doing that a lot, obviously when everything was just starting and we were unaware like what's going on. But after 8 months, it's hard. We still have to be obviously diligent. I'm not saying that, like, we still have to be aware
of course.
that not like we still have to, I wear, and I have kids, they go to school, like we're all, very extra careful. But I just, like you said, I think mental health is key also right now. And you've got to balance that with what you see on the news, because it can get very upsetting.
Well, mental health and the suicide rate has spiked so significantly during this time of year. And I think I'm at my wit's end personally, because I think enough is enough. I think we should have... I'm a horrible person, and I'm very well at admitting the fact that I think we need to open up now, because the sheer amount of suicides should be enough to shake this country loose of itself and realize we can't always be there for everyone if we're constantly secluding anyone. So my hope is that we can come up with some type of game plan to get to these people that are struggling. And me, myself, who has active PTSD and MDD, and I'm very aware of how people are feeling right now. People are reaching out, but I also am very aware that it's affecting me. It's affecting me on a very bigger way than I hoped it would. But at the end of the day, I know that this too will end. And if it doesn't end, well, hopefully all we can do is our best for our own mental health and try to be there more for others. And if you're seeing signs and symptoms in people, don't just wave it off. Don't be like, I got other things to do. Take that shit seriously right now, because this is no joke. This time of year, this climate,
especially, a lot of people that can't travel, they're not going to see their loved ones. It's going to be tough for sure.
It is. So that's why I think mental health needs to be acknowledged in every way, shape, and form. And if you know you ever have a hard time, or you know, Vicky, anybody who ever has a hard time, you know that they can always reach out, and we can help to find those resources for them, because no one needs to suffer in silence by themselves any longer, especially during this, because it's just not fair. So
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. And you know the same about me.
of course, darling, of
In
course.
our neighborhood here. Yep.
I know, in the hood. Listen, it's been a pleasure. I'm grateful, and I'm beyond excited for the gala, and like fingers, toes, everything crossed that it's going to happen, because
I
when
know.
that got canceled, I was like, the 1 year we are actually nominated, it's not happening.
I know.
Come on.
We'll get there. I have faith. We'll do something.
We will do something, and we do have the faith. But I do want to say thank you so much, Vicky Milner, for spending this time with us on the Brass and Unity podcast.
Thank you, Kelsi. Good luck with everything.
Thank you, darling. See y'all later.